80% of the world's oil is paid for in US dollars, yet the United States consumes approximately 20% of the world's total oil supply. That's because it's not just the United States paying in dollars, it's the world. So why is the global oil supply chain using US currency? And why does it matter?
To understand how the world trades oil, we need to go back to 1861. The first ever international export of oil occurred when the American brig Elizabeth Watts departed from Philadelphia to ship oil to London, England. The ship carried 901 barrels of Pennsylvanian crude oil and 428 barrels of refined kerosene. This first shipment was paid using British pound sterling through a bill of exchange. At this time, sterling bills of exchange were equivalent to a world currency as foreign institutions, and the London bill market allowed for nearly anyone to guarantee a reliable line of credit when trading internationally. In 1896, John D. Rockefeller retired from his company, the Standard Oil Company, after 26 years. The company was one of the first true corporate monopolies in modern business history. From manufacturing barrels, producing oil, and exporting it internationally, the Standard Oil Company really had it all. At their height, they controlled 95% of oil refining and distributing capacity in the U.S. Their fleet of oil tankers and their extensive international distribution networks launched the United States into prominence in global oil trade. As the monopoly grew, handling the profits became less reliant on British lending credit and more on internal accounting, as they embraced new methods such as book transfers, account credit, and telegraph transfers. When the next big change happened, the term black gold took on a much more literal meaning. The 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement had many provisions to redefine the post-World War II global economy, but the most impactful of them all was the gold standard. The gold standard pegged the US dollar to $35 an ounce. At this point in time, US companies dominated the oil industry, which meant that dollars were in high demand, and the security of the dollar partly relied on oil. By the 1960s, oil played a huge role in the global economy. It was being overproduced by a few multinational corporations who controlled the majority of the world's oil supply, called the Seven Sisters. In response, 5 Middle Eastern countries formed OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They did this so they could protect their national revenues from the corporations'
One
interests.
American division, with more than 400 helicopters of its own. Nothing can outrun the Flying Horseman.
U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, increased military spending, and extensive social security programs all took a toll on the U.S.'s capacity to back the dollar with gold. The U.S. simply did not have enough gold reserves to back up all the new money it was printing. Because the foreign market was flooded with fresh dollars, countries rushed to redeem gold from the Treasury. President Nixon suspended the dollar's convertibility to gold, which was the basis of the Bretton Woods Agreement. At that point, the US dollar was backed by nothing but by government decree. Now, nations had huge reserves of US currency that they simply could not use. The demand for the dollar fell and risked massive devaluation. The economic effects of this are clear when we get to the oil crisis of 1973, when OPEC countries embargoed the United States. This embargo crippled the economy, with energy interests and the economic health of the United States at stake. The Petrodollar agreement came to be. The system was established by a bilateral agreement between Saudi Arabia and the United States, where they would price their oil in dollars. Due to Saudi Arabia's major role in OPEC, other oil exporting countries followed suit. The Middle Eastern countries would rake in US dollars from the entire world, but why would they want it? That is where the second part of the agreement comes in handy. Since the economies of these countries cannot just absorb the money from crude sales, the countries reinvested them with the U.S. Treasury and bought U.S. military equipment. This is called dollar recycling. The petrodollar system increased demand for U.S. dollars at an unprecedented scale, which increased its credit for global trade drastically. And today, well after the dollar no longer has a set value, it is still the world's reserve currency and the most traded currency in the world. Hi, I just wanted to end off by talking about why this matters to all of us now. In a general sense, the world is going through a process called de-dollarization, where local currencies are being used to trade international commodities. This means that more US dollars will come back to the domestic market, and it will devalue it, making it harder to buy the same things from your local supermarket or even a vendor across the ocean.